We're going to call to order the July 10th, 2023 meeting of Plymouth Township Council. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good evening, everyone. First, is there any public comment about the agenda itself? Okay. Moving on, we have Ms. Banish has a quick announcement about hearing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The conditional use hearing for 502 West Germantown Pike has been continued to August the 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Banish. We have a few recognitions tonight and honoring some of our residents and our employees. So we're going to start tonight with our firefighter recognitions for Plymouth Fire Company, and I'll hand it over to Ms. Bramblett.
Thank you. Whereas Plymouth Township has been faithfully protected by the Plymouth Fire Company No. 1 and the Harmonville Fire Company No. 1 since 1906 and 1924 respectively, and whereas this volunteer service to the residents and businesses of Plymouth Township is invaluable and second to none, and whereas training is the key to successful emergency operations, namely the prevention of injury and the loss of life and the protection of property and the environment. Now therefore be it resolved that Plymouth Township Council commends the following individuals for successfully completing national and state certifications and for the honor which their dedication brings to the township. Michael Estep has earned Firefighter 1, Water Rescue and Emergency Response, and Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Marlo Kleinschmidt, Firefighter 1. Nicholas Gaiman, Firefighter 1. Michael Kajak, Firefighter 2, Water Rescue and Emergency Response, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response, Vehicle Rescue Technician. Charles Gallagher, Fire Officer 1, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Eric Delap, Fire Officer 2, Fire Officer 3, Advanced Lines Systems Rescue, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. John J. Heleniak III, Fire Officer 3, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Mark Montelius, Advanced Line Systems Rescue, Water Rescue and Emergency Response, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Stephen Bonomo, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Jonathan Drodds, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Christopher Heleniak, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Frank Heleniak, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Steve Kowalski, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. And Andrew Thomas, Ice Rescue and Emergency Response. Presented this 10th day of July, 2023, Plymouth Township Council by Christopher G. Monero, Chair.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this certificate of recognition?
So moved.
There's we'll say a motion from Ms. Banish and a second from Ms. Bramblett. Any comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the audience? We'll say thank you guys for all the work and all the continued efforts to keep us safe. No more comment. We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney? In favor. And the chair votes in favor.
Thank you. Sideways.
Right here?
Sorry. Thank you guys, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all did a lot of work. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the recognition as always and everything you guys do for us, the confidence support. Each day, each week, each month, and each year. Obviously, we couldn't do what we do. We certainly couldn't do all of this with our members without your guys' help and support. So, again, thank you for this and the recognition as always. Thank you. appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate everything you guys have done and all the work you put into
Oh,
it.
yep, sorry.
Squeeze in there.
Can you get us all?
Turn sideways. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Our next item is a 30 years of service resolution for David Charlo. David's not here tonight, but I'm going to read his resolution into the record. Whereas David Charlo has served the Plymouth Township Buildings and Grounds Department faithfully since July 19, 1993, and has therefore completed 30 years of service. And whereas Plymouth Township Council desires to formally recognize the diligent and valuable service rendered by David Charlo and publicly express its appreciation. Now therefore be it resolved that David Charlo is congratulated for completion of 30 years of service with the Plymouth Township Building and Grounds Department, and be it further resolved that this resolution be entered in the official minutes of Plymouth Township, and that a copy of this resolution be publicly tendered to David Charlo, adopted this 10th day of July, 2023. And I would like to make a motion that we approve this resolution. Is there a second?
Second?
Second from Ms. Vicio. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Vicio, or Ms. Vicio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. We're going to move one item up on the agenda tonight. So down under Parks and Rec, item B, our Park and Recreation Professionals Day proclamation. We're going to do that now, and I'm going to hand that over to Ms. Bramblett.
Thank you. Plymouth Township Proclamation, Parks and Recreation Professionals Day, July 21, 2023. Whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental health and wellness through organized and self-directed fitness, play, and activity. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports the economic vitality of communities by providing frontline jobs, child care for the essential workforce, and promoting community revitalization. And whereas Parks and Recreation creates memorable experiences through engaging virtual and physically distanced programs, dynamic online events, and new learning opportunities designed to keep families active while stay-at-home orders are in place and beyond. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesiveness in communities by celebrating diversity, providing spaces to come together peacefully, modeling compassion, promoting social equity, connecting social networks, and ensuring all people have access to its benefits. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports human development and endless learning opportunities that foster social, intellectual, physical, and emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. And whereas Parks and Recreation strengthens community identity by providing facilities and services that reflect and celebrate community character, heritage, culture, history, aesthetics, and landscape. And whereas Parks and Recreation facilitates community problem and issue resolution by providing safe spaces to come together peacefully and facilitating conversations and services in order that our communities may heal both physically and emotionally. And whereas Parks and Recreation sustains and stewards our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parkland. And whereas Parks and Recreation supports safe, vibrant, attractive, progressive communities that make life better through positive alternatives offered in their recreational opportunities. Whereas the Plymouth Township Council supports the skilled work of Parks and Recreation professionals to strengthen community cohesion and resiliency, connect people with nature and each other, and provide opportunities for healthful living, social equity, and environmental sustainability. Whereas the Plymouth Township Council values the essential services that Park and Recreation professionals and volunteers perform to provide recreational and developmental enrichment for our children, youth, adults, and seniors, and to ensure our parks and recreational facilities are clean, safe, and ready to use. Now, therefore, be it resolved Plymouth Township Council does hereby proclaim July 21st, 2023 as Pennsylvania Park and Recreation Professional Days in Plymouth Township. Adopted this 10th day of July, 2023 by Plymouth Township Council. I make a motion that this proclamation be adopted and entered into the minutes.
There's a motion from Ms. Bramblett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council? Say, you guys do a lot. But we always talk about our parks, and we have 11 parks, and it's not just the parks themselves, but it's the programming. It's how much they're used, and it's the people. It's the employees. We don't have a main street. We don't have a town square, but we have parks. And through the outstanding leadership in the department and all the employees and professionals, it's just we're very lucky here to have a committed and dedicated group. And I just want to from all of us thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did we have a second?
Yeah, Nick, second. Let's see vote.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience? We didn't do that yet. All right. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett.
In favor.
Ms. Bandish.
In favor.
Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor.
Good job.
Any questions? You take any questions?
Yeah, I did. I asked if there was any questions or comments.
Yeah, they weren't listening. We were wondering why they can't make more pickleball courts in East Plymouth Valley. There are none. It's all for tennis, right? We tried JFK Park. They said it makes too much noise. I agree with them. There's neighbors close by, but they play tennis there all the time, next to these houses. So why not make them tennis courts and pickleball courts, since that's growing? Pickleball is going this way, tennis is going this way. The same thing with Plymouth Valley. There's 6 courts there. I go over there, none of them being used, but none can be lined with pickleball for some reason. I don't know why. That's all we want to know.
I just for the record, your name.
John Smith.
Are you a Plymouth resident?
Yes.
Sorry, I just have to have that for the official minutes.
My name's John Roberts, by the way.
Oh.
I don't know why my name's necessary, but
We just for the record for the minutes. I know pickleball is massive today. It's being played everywhere, and it's probably one of the more popular activities in every community across all ages now too. So it's something that we've talked about a lot, and it obviously comes up. And I know there's pickleball leagues, I guess, here. There's people that play here every day. I can't give you an answer right now off the top of my head, but I can say it's something that we can certainly talk with our Parks Department about and continue to focus and see what we can do more of.
We're trying to figure out, we've asked before, right? We don't know why it takes so long, yes or no. I mean, we're just trying to figure out why they can't line the courts. The courts are there, right? They're not being used all the time. So if tennis is reserved by somebody, you have no problem with that. They can still use it. We just like to, on the off hours or whatever, be able to use it as a pickleball game.
Right now, just because it's not, I can't tell you yes or no right now, but I can take your question certainly back and get you an answer.
Could I add on to that?
Sure. Your name, sorry.
Cynthia Capaci, C-A-P-A-C-I. I am a resident. So I learned to play pickleball here probably 6 years ago indoors. And because there are no outdoor courts here, in nice weather, a lot of us go to Skippack Township to play, Upper Glenage, East Norton. But, there's nothing in Plymouth. And the courts are just sitting. I know at Upper Glenage, they built 4 strictly pickleball courts, and now they're taking the tennis courts, which are adjacent, and they'll put 1 court on each side. They'll line it, each side of the tennis net, and you use the net as a divider for the 2 courts. So either sport can be played in those courts. Skippack took half of their tennis courts and made 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts. So it's just really something that, living here, I think we would appreciate it if we didn't have to drive 20 minutes, half an hour.
Thank you.
So
I'd like to say that I got a letter from a resident too, Sandy Grunfeld, asking the same thing. And I said, you know, we would check into it. So I would be very happy to work with you on exploring that.
Yes, and I'm the council liaison to the Parks and Recreation Board, and our next meeting, and they are open to the public, by the way, they're board meetings. The next meeting is on July the 25th at 6:30. It's going to be an outdoor meeting at the Harriet Wetherill Park, and I will bring that up, but certainly any of you are welcome to attend also and express your desires. I'm not a voting member of that board, but I always speak up. Yes, it is Tuesday, July the 25th. It begins at 6:30, and it's going to be held at the Harriet Wetherill Park at the pavilion at the Butler Street entrance.
Okay, thank you. I can just echo, since we have a group of friends who was just having this conversation about where to
Okay.
go, and the pickleball courts in other locations get very busy, so it would be nice to.
Okay, and our board meetings,
Sorry,
all of our...
just your name. Anytime anybody speaks at a public meeting, we need their name. I'm sorry.
Jessica, I'll spell the last name. It's Klippphahn.
And are you a resident or?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
just my lawyer tells me we have to ask.
And also, if you didn't, bring notebooks and hold tonight and calendars, all of our citizen board meetings are on the PlymouthTownship.org website. So just remember it's this month, and you can look that up.
Just to clarify, you're asking if the courts can be lines so they could serve both tennis and pickleball, not
Correct.
replacing a court, you're just asking for the lines
Correct.
to make it either or.
Right, so some townships, instead of building strictly pickleball courts, which are much smaller than a tennis court, they've saved a lot of money by just lining, putting lines a different color than the tennis lines on the tennis courts. So you could get one on each side.
So it's just a matter of the cost of the paint
It is.
And the net.
and the
And
net.
you also have to be aware that bouncing of the pickleball annoys residents, like down at the shore, there's a lot of issue with that, with rentals all summer, if they're right near the courts. So I think JFK has houses right near the
Yeah.
courts, so that might be an issue there. That's why it seems like Plymouth Valley, but be good, and there are more courts there.
Also, just for the record, I was the North Penn High School 1997 pickleball tournament champion.
Why cast pen?
I didn't know the sport was that old. Holy cow.
I personally have been
It's also the last
amazed.
time I played.
I personally have been amazed at how popular that is, and the growth is it's astronomical. It's shooting up.
But thank you for your thoughts. We'll be in touch. Thank you. All right. Any additional? We voted on that proclamation, correct?
We did.
Okay. Do we have we don't have one to, do we have one to hand?
Yeah, I'll get one.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, picture.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Phil, you have to be in the picture.
Let me try.
So you have to be at least one.
Yeah. Hey, Karen, can you take a picture with
Can you take a picture?
Phil in it? Sure. Thanks. Sorry.
No, absolutely. I just wanted a picture. Just this button right there. Yeah. Mark gets his sense. She knows how I work these things. Thank you. you, council.
Thank you.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that was.
Couple announcements. We have an announcement that an executive session was held on June 12th, 2023, and an executive session was held on July 5th, 2023. At this time, I'll ask for approval of the minutes from our workshop meeting on June 5th, 2023, and our minutes from the regular meeting on June 12th, 2023.
We also held an executive.
I make a motion to approve the
Oh,
minutes.
hold on. Additional announcement that we held an executive session before this meeting tonight. So approval of the workshop and regular meeting minutes from June 5th and June 12th. There's a motion from Ms. Bramlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Yes.
Alex Evangelista. I am pastor at Church Kamal. This is a simple question. Are actions on executive meetings announced to the public?
No.
Or just announcements?
Executive sessions could be to discuss personnel matters or litigation matters. So the contents of those meetings are not
Is it
announced.
typical that actions made at those meetings are announced?
There really aren't actions made in an executive meeting, correct?
There were none in any of the three that you've just announced.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm just wondering.
Sure, sure. Where was I? Approval of minutes. We had a motion. Do we have a second? We did. Okay. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramlett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor?
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Approval of departmental reports and bills. Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vizio, second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramlett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Moving down to administration, we have 3 tax settlements tonight. Just a quick recap highlight. We talked about this last meeting. While residential real estate values are climbing, commercial real estate values are not, and therefore we've had a kind of a litany of tax settlements for reassessment of values. So we had a few last month. We have 3 more this month, and I will hand those over to Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. The first one this evening is involving Plymouth Meeting Hotel Franchise LLC. The property is located at 2055 Chemical Road in Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. At the time of the appeal, which was filed by the property owner, the Montgomery County Board of Assessment had assessed the subject property a value of $7,407,330. The Montgomery County Board of Assessment Appeals issued a notice of no change in assessment, and the taxpayer appealed. Subsequent to that appeal, the property was sold to KVH 22 LLC. This settlement, as all of the settlements this evening, was negotiated by the school district, and based on the risks and hazards of litigation, the parties have all decided that it is in their best interest to settle the above captioned matter based upon the terms and conditions outlined in this stipulation of settlement. Effective January 1st, the subject property shall be reduced from $7,407,330 to $5,628. Effective January 1st, 2022, the property shall be reduced from $7,407,330 to $5,587,500. Effective January 1st, 2023, the assessment on the property shall be reduced from $7,407,330 to $5,148,000. The assessment on the subject property shall remain at $5,148,000 until there is another subsequent successful tax assessment appeal a countywide reassessment, a change in the subject property, or any other change that permits a change in the assessment as provided by applicable law. As a result of the adjustment to the assessment on the subject property, there has been an overpayment in taxes to Plymouth Township for tax years 2021, 2022, and 2023 in the amount of $14,811.39. Upon approval of this stipulation to settle by the court, the tax collector and/or treasurer for Plymouth Township shall issue a refund without interest in the amount of $14,811.39 to be allocated among the taxpayers Plymouth Meeting Hotel Franchise LLC and Plymouth Meeting Holdings LLC and KVH 222 LLC, unless the taxpayers paid their taxes within the discount period, then 2% shall be deducted from the amount of the overpayment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve this tax settlement?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Bramblett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. The next settlement is for Star 30 LLC and Star 30 MD LLC. Again, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. The property owner is Star 30 LLC and Star 30 MD LLC. The property is located at 3043 Walton Road in Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. The taxpayers filed an appeal to the Montgomery County Board of Assessment. The Montgomery County Board of Assessment Appeals, by a notice dated July 16, 2021, issued a notice of assessment reduction, which reduced the assessment of the property from $7,102,844 to $5,364,000, effective January 1st, 2022. The taxpayer appealed the decision of the Board of Assessment Appeals, and based, again, a settlement negotiated by the school district, and based upon the risks and hazards of litigation, the parties hereto have all decided that it is in their best interest to settle the above captioned matter based upon the terms and conditions outlined in this stipulation of settlement. Effective January 1st, 2022, the subject property shall be reduced from $5,364,000 to $4,525,875. Effective January 1st, 2023, the subject property shall be reduced from $5,364,000 to $4,009,500. And effective January 1st, 2024, the property shall be reduced from $5,364,000 to $3,861,000. The assessment of the subject property shall remain at $3,861,000 until there is another subsequent successful tax assessment appeal, a countywide reassessment, a change to the subject property, or any other change that permits a change in the assessment as provided by applicable law. As a result of the adjustment to the assessment on the subject property, there has been an overpayment in taxes to Plymouth Township for tax year 2022 and 2023 in the amount of $5,660.86. Upon approval of the stipulation to settle by the court, the tax collector and/or treasurer for Plymouth Township shall issue the taxpayer a refund without interest in the amount of $5,660.86, unless the taxpayer paid their taxes within the discount period. Then 2% shall be deducted from the amount of the overpayment. Said refund shall be payable to the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve this tax settlement? Motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. And our final settlement is for Plymouth Meeting KPG 3 LLC. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. The property owner is Plymouth Meeting KPG 3 LLC. The property is located at 500 West Germantown Pike in Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. The taxpayer filed an appeal to the Montgomery County Board of Assessment Appeals. At the time of the taxpayer's appeal, the Board of Assessment Appeals, to the Board of Assessment Appeals, the assessment of the subject property was $8 million. The Montgomery County Board of Assessment Appeals, by notice dated September 21st, 2020, issued a notice of no change of assessment, which was subsequently appealed by the taxpayer. This, like the first two settlements, was negotiated by the school district, whereas based on the risks and hazards of litigation, the parties have all decided that it is in their best interest to settle the above captioned matter based upon the terms and conditions outlined in this stipulation of settlement. Effective January 1st, 2021, the subject property shall be reduced from $8 million to $6,500,000. Effective January 1st, 2022, the assessment on the subject property shall be reduced from $8 million to $4,693,500. And effective January 1st, 2023, the assessment on the subject property shall be reduced from $8 million to $3,762,000. The assessment of the subject property shall remain at $3,762,000 until there is another subsequent successful tax assessment appeal, a countywide reassessment, a change in the subject property, or any other change that permits a change in the assessment as provided by applicable law. As a result of the adjustment of the assessment on the subject property, there has been an overpayment of taxes to Plymouth Township for the tax year 2021, 2022, and 2023 in the amount of $23,065.94. Upon approval of the stipulation to settle by the court, the tax collector and/or treasurer for Plymouth Township shall issue to the taxpayer a refund without interest in the amount of $23,065.94 unless taxpayer paid their taxes within the discount period. Then 2% shall be deducted from the amount of the overpayment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. And is there a motion to approve this final tax settlement? Motion from Mr. Whitney, second from, who was that, Ms. Bandish?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor?
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next, we have a letter of engagement to engage with Campbell Durant for labor and employment legal services. Ms. Bramblett.
Thank you. I have a letter from Patrick Harvey, attorney at the law firm of Campbell Durant PC. This is an engagement and fee agreement letter for labor and employment legal services. The letter sets forth the terms and conditions for providing legal services to the township as special labor counsel. The representation is limited to labor and employment-related matters specifically referred to Campbell Durant for handling.
And is there a motion?
I make a motion that we ratify the engagement fee letter agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion from Ms. Bramblett, second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor?
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Okay, moving down to police and public safety tonight, we have a military buyback time ordinance for first and final consideration. And again, this is just something that has already been in our contract, but was never followed up with an ordinance, and it needed to be. So we are following it up with an ordinance tonight for first and final. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. This is an ordinance of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 19, Police, Article 2, Pension Plan, Division 3, Benefits, to add Section 19-58, Military Service Buyback, establishing the procedure by which township police officers may purchase service credit for up to 5 years of active military service with the United States Armed Forces prior to their employment as township police officers. Whereas the Township of Plymouth is a duly organized home rule municipality existing and operating in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and whereas pursuant to Section 301 of the Home Rule Charter, all powers of the township are vested in and exercised by a council including the power to make and adopt ordinances and resolutions consistent with the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth and the Home Rule Charter. And whereas the Council of Plymouth Township desires to amend the Township Code of Ordinances to add Section 19-58, Military Service Buyback, to establish the procedure by which Township police officers may purchase service credit for up to 5 years of active military service with the United States Armed Forces prior to their employment as Township police officers. Now, therefore, the Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, does hereby enact and ordain that the Code of Ordinances of Plymouth Township, Pennsylvania, is hereby amended as stated below. Section 1, amending the Township Code of Ordinances to add Section 19-58, Military Service Buyback, to establish the procedure by which the Township police officers may purchase service credit for up to 5 years of active military service with the United States Armed Forces prior to their employment as Township police officers. The Township Code, Chapter 19, Article 2, Division 3, shall be amended to add Section 19-58, Military Service Buyback, which shall read as follows. Officers may purchase service credit for up to 5 years of active military service with the United States Armed Forces that occurred prior to their employment as Township police officers, provided that the officer is not entitled or eligible to receive and is not currently receiving retirement benefits for such service from any retirement system administered and wholly or partially paid for by any other governmental agency. The amount due for the purchase of credit for military service other than intervening military service shall be computed in accordance with Section 4 of Act 600, 53 PS 770. The amount due shall be calculated by applying the average normal cost rate for borough, town, township, and regional police pension plans as certified by the Public Employment Retirement Commission, but not to exceed 10% to the officer's average annual rate of compensation over the first 3 years of township service, and multiplying the result by the number of years and fractional part of a year of creditable non-intervening military service being purchased together with an interest at the rate of 4 3/4 compounded annually from the date of initial entry into the township service to the date of payment. Section 2 is the repeal and ratification provision. Section 3 is the severability provision. Section 4 is the effective date. The ordinance shall become effective upon enactment, ordained and enacted by the Council of Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, this 10th day of July, 2023. Council of Plymouth Township, I, Christopher G. Monero, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve the military buyback ordinance?
So moved.
A motion from Ms. Bramlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramlett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. The next item under Police and Public Safety is a handgun bid award. Mr. Whitney.
All right, in regards to the Heckler & Koch Handgun Bid Award, I have a recommendation from the chief that council accept and award Firing Line Inc. the bid for both the Heckler & Koch handgun purchase and the trade-in of the township's Sig Sauer handguns for a combined bid total of $60,762.20.
There's a motion from Mr. Whitney to recommend, correct?
Yes, correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramlett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on the handgun bid award. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bramlett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next, we have our towing contract extension, and this is just a motion that I'll make to extend the contract with EVB Towing. This is a 1-year extension of the current contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramlett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramlett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. And finally, tonight we have under Police and Public Safety our County Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution. Ms. Vizio.
Mr. Chair, this is the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan Municipal Adoption Resolution. Whereas Plymouth Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, is most vulnerable to natural and human-made hazards which may result in loss of life and property, economic hardship, and threats to public health and safety. And whereas Section 322 of the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, DMA 2000, requires state and local governments to develop and submit for approval to the President a mitigation plan that outlines processes for identifying their respective natural hazards, risks, and vulnerabilities. And whereas Plymouth Township acknowledges the requirements of Section 322 of DMA 2000 to have an approved hazard mitigation plan as a prerequisite to receiving post-disaster hazard mitigation grant program funds. And whereas the Montgomery County 2022 hazard mitigation plan has been developed by the Montgomery County Planning Commission and the Montgomery County Office of Emergency Operations in cooperation with other county departments and officials and citizens of Plymouth Township. And whereas a public involvement process consistent with the requirements of DMA 2000 was conducted to develop the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan, and whereas the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan recommends mitigation activities that will reduce losses to life and property and affected by both natural and human-made hazards that face the county and its municipal governments. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing body for Plymouth Township, the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan, is hereby adopted as the official hazard mitigation plan of Plymouth Township, and the respective officials and agencies identified in the implementation strategy of the Montgomery County 2022 Hazard Mitigation Plan are hereby directed to implement the recommended activities assigned to them. Adopted this 10th day of July 2023, Plymouth Township by Christopher G. Monero, Chairman.
Okay,
Make a motion that we accept this resolution.
Okay, there's a motion from Ms. Vicio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council? And just to, there's a 330-page document. Is that link on the website? Is that link publicly available in case anybody wants to?
I can make sure it is.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's there yet, but it can
Okay.
be.
So there is
It's
a.
on the county website, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
It's their plan, but I'd be happy to put it on ours if you want.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Comments or questions from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio?
In favor?
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Chair votes in favor. Moving on to Public Works Sewer. Karen, is there anything we need to do for that item for the bill of sale?
The next one? No, I mean,
No.
just to vote to adopt the agreement.
Yeah,
No, there's just nobody assigned. I didn't know.
it's me.
Mike,
Doesn't
See, there's my name. right there.
It doesn't say that.
Says it on mine.
All right, tonight we have a Plymouth Whitpain Transportation Agreement and Bill of Sale for Public Works and Sewer. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. This is amendment number 6 to the Plymouth Whitpain Transportation Agreement. This amendment meant number 6 to the Plymouth Whitpain Transportation Agreement dated October 5th, 1959, by and between Whitpain Township with an address of 960 Wentz Road, Bluebell, Montgomery County,
Bless you.
Pennsylvania, and Plymouth Township with an address of 700 Belvoir Road, Plymouth Meeting, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. On October 5th, 1959, the Plymouth Township Municipal Authority, Whitpain, and the Whitpain Township Sewer Authority entered into the original agreement to provide for the transportation of sanitary sewage emanating from portions of Whitpain Township through certain sewers constructed in portions of Plymouth known as the Sawmill Run Interceptor, so as to convey the sanitary sewage to the East Norriton Plymouth Joint Sewer Authority's Sawmill Run Pumping Station. Subsequent to that, there has been 5 amendments which have included sewage from Plymouth Township that goes to Whitpain. And now we are reached the point of amendment number 6. Therefore, in consideration of the sum of $1, the mutual covenants, rights, and obligations contained herein, and for other good and valuable consideration, the receipt and sufficiency of which are hereby acknowledged and intending to be legally bound, the parties agree as follows. Section 1 is the agreement to connect and transport. Section 2 is the allocation of operation, maintenance, and repair costs for the interceptor, sections B and E. Number 3 is billing for operations, maintenance, and repair costs. Number 4 is the additional Whitpain properties that will be connected to the Plymouth system. Section 5 is the Plymouth properties that will be connected to the Whitpain system. Section 6 is the payment for and billing for additional Whitpain residents. Section 7, payment for and billing for Plymouth properties connected to the Whitpain system. Section 8 is installation of meters and rights-of-way. Section 9 is notices of changes to rates. Section 10 is effective date, and Section 11 is miscellaneous. And this would be in witness whereof Whitpain Township and Plymouth Township have caused this amendment, number 6, to be duly executed this day and year, first written above. Plymouth Township by Christopher G. Monero, Council President. Council Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to the Plymouth Whitpain Transportation Agreement?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Vicio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience?
Approve the agreement first. and then-
Okay. So we'll approving the agreement. Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Ms. Bandish.
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett.
In favor.
Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. Next is the bill of
We
sale.
need a motion to approve the bill of
Okay,
sale.
and is there a motion to approve the bill of sale?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett.
In favor.
Ms. Bandish.
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. All right, moving down to subdivision and land development. These are plans currently under review. We have an extension request for 1508 Sandy Hill Road. Mr. Whitney.
All right. I have a request for an extension for the property at 1508 Sandy Hill Road until the date of October 15th, 2023. I would make a motion that we grant this extension.
Okay, there's a motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments, questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vicio.
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett.
In
Ms.
favor.
Bandish.
In favor.
Mr. Whitney.
In favor.
Chair votes in favor. Next is 2516 Butler Pike. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Monero. Be it resolved that Plymouth Township Council does hereby approve the subdivision plan prepared by Robert E. Blue Engineers for John and Jody Miller, dated January 13, 2023, last revised May 22nd, 2023, consisting of sheets numbers 1 through 3, proposing to subdivide Montgomery County tax parcel number 49-00-01231-00-7, located at 2516 Butler Pike, into 2 lots, with Lot B being 18,398.32 square feet, or 0.42 acres, and containing an existing residential dwelling unit, and Lot B being 16,757.97 square feet, or 0.38 acres. Subdivision application 23-1 in accordance with said plan, under and subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner-developer shall execute a public improvement agreement and memorandum of public improvement agreement as required by the subdivision and land development ordinance, and pay all applicable fees and assessments, including but not limited to the following. A, impact fee for transportation capital improvements under ordinance number 1426 of 2004 as amended, said impact fee in an amount to be determined by Carroll Engineering Corporation at the time of construction of a new structure. B, recreation fee of $1,000 to be paid at the time of construction of a new structure. C, sewer connection fee to be paid to and determined by White Marsh Sewer Authority. Number 2, that the owner-developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the June 7th, 2023 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the Township Traffic Engineer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the said traffic engineer. 3, that the owner-developer shall prepare revised plans to comply with the requirements, comments as set forth in the June 7, 2023 report of Carroll Engineering Corporation, the township sanitary sewer engineer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the said sanitary sewer engineer. 4, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the June 8, 2023 report of Woodrow and Associates, the township engineer, attached to this resolution, except to the extent that waivers are granted herein to the satisfaction and approval of said township engineer. 5, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the June 14, 2023 report of Joel Rowe, zoning officer, attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the said zoning officer. 6, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the February 24, 2023 report of Suburban Lighting Consultants, the township lighting consultant, to the satisfaction and approval of the said consultant. 7, that the owner developer shall obtain all required permits and approvals from the sewer authority, a DEP sewage facility planning module waiver, the water company with jurisdiction over the property, and a highway occupancy permit from Montgomery County for a new driveway and for curb and sidewalk if required. 8, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to comply with the requirements, comments set forth in the July 5th, 2023 report of the Planning Agency and the March 31st, 2023 report of the Montgomery County Planning Commission, each attached to this resolution to the satisfaction and approval of the aforesaid township zoning officer. 9, that the owner developer shall prepare revisions to the plans to list all waivers granted and notes required by this resolution. 10, prior to the issuance of any permits, all outstanding legal, engineering, and administrative fees applicable to this land development must be paid by the owner developer. 11, this approval is subject to the fulfillment of all the foregoing conditions in their entirety, and no permit shall be issued, nor shall any development take place on the property unless and until all such conditions are fulfilled. Further resolved that the owner developer has requested the following waivers from the terms of the Plymouth Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance of 1980 as amended, and the Council of Plymouth Township has granted or approved such request as A, Article 4, Section 402.A, from the requirement to depict the location of all storm sewers within 200 feet, subject to the compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated June 8, 2023. Article 5, Section 502.2.B2, from the requirement of having a collector street width of 36 feet with curbs and sidewalks, subject to the compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated June 8, 2023. C, Article 5, Section 503.1A, from the requirements of having sidewalks along all streets, subject to the compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated June 8, 2023. D, Article 5, Section 503.2A, from the requirement of having concrete curbs installed along each side of every residential collector or arterial street, subject to the compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated June 8, 2023. Article 5, Section 505.1H, from the requirement for subdivisions with a tract which creates a non-conforming side, rear, or front yard, subject to the compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated June 8, 2023, duly presented and adopted by Plymouth Township Council at a public meeting held on the 10th day of July, 2023, Plymouth Township, by Christopher G. Monero, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there a motion to approve this land development?
Chris, could I add the motion to
Yep.
include the approval or denials of these waivers?
So, is that first?
If you can, the motion could be to approve the resolution and granting all of the waivers. If you're not inclined to grant all the waivers, then we should do them one by one.
Okay. Right. So,
I just wanted to share, because I know this was talked about at the workshop meeting, some Google shots, if you want to look, of of the, just the trees and the shrubbery that would have to be removed to install the curbs and sidewalks, because it's going to be and some of you are familiar with the area. Just so you know, it's a lot of removal. They have a long frontage, you know. Yeah.
There was a lot taken down at the Powell development too, if you noticed. A lot of
Yes, so-
mature trees have been
So
removed.
and last week we said we'd maybe keep it consistent with the Powell property, but as you look at the property to the right of the driveway, that is going to have a sidewalk at least into the Harriet Wetherell Park. There's 61 homes there, but to the left of their driveway, their plan was approved without sidewalks up from their driveway toward the turnpike, God bless you, overpass. So it's half and half. So as far as keeping it consistent with Powell, it's kind of hard because they got half sidewalk and the other half without.
That could be confusing for someone.
Well, yeah, it's going to be confusing to try to keep it consistent because
Yeah.
they got 50-50.
Is this is all in regard to C on here? Is that correct?
Yeah, so, well, B and C is pretty much the same.
B and C.
curbs and
And D is the
B,
curbs.
C, and D are all related.
They're all related.
So the point to grant the waivers on the sidewalks would be sort of a hardship with vegetation, with existing tree coverage.
It would be very expensive, and it's kind of, it's totally up to you.
It's not a very walkable area. It's,
because it has no sidewalks.
that's true, but if we did sidewalks here, they don't continue, so somebody,
There wouldn't be a sidewalk from the Powell that connects to that, correct? The Powell
Well,
sidewalk.
you have to
only
walk
goes-
under the turnpike from Powell's to this property. They're adjacent, but the turnpike is between them.
Right.
yeah.
So there would be sidewalks would not connect.
No, because Powell's don't have,
They don't have a sidewalk that goes that way.
correct.
Correct. I mean, for me, for those reasons, that would make, I would be okay with granting the waiver, because I do think it is I mean, we don't want to waive sidewalks, but we'd be requiring a sidewalk that doesn't go anywhere and that would look to be pretty difficult to install.
It's kind of a ghost sidewalk.
Additional questions? Thoughts? I know we talked about it last week, but
Well, I just know that the vegetation was all removed from the Powell tract. So and those were mature trees that were removed. So
To install a sidewalk or no?
I don't know why they did it.
So you're saying they took them down but didn't install a sidewalk?
Correct.
And here they would have to take more down in order to install the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Backwards.
it sounds like maybe Karen has a question of are they going to take those trees down anyway? Whether they put a sidewalk up or not. Do we know that?
We don't know.
I mean, if
guess
it's to
it
save
depends on
trees, then the
person who
trees should be
buys the lot
saved.
And what, if they want a big green screen in front of their property, they might leave some of it up so that that buffers them from the traffic. The
Can we-
last one here, they have already been to the zoning board for the front yard. They got a variance for a less than required front yard. If they want to keep the house closer to the street, like the adjoining, like the neighboring, the Miller's property, and have a bigger backyard to make that more usable, because the front yard is right on the street there, and, so they got a variance to have a smaller than required front yard, so they would have more space in the back for usable space for the family.
Right, but the zoning hearing board is not approving,
Planning agency.
the planning agency is not approving the waiver for sidewalks and curbs.
They're recommending.
They're recommending
Yeah,
that
they're
there be.
advisory to you only.
So do we know, can we find out if they're going to take down all that vegetation anyway?
That
I mean, what's
would
the
depend
plan?
on the family that buys the lot. I don't believe that the owner is going to develop it, but I don't know that either. I don't know.
But we can't
Self-
require that they keep it.
Self-building lot.
And as a single lot, it won't need to go through land development.
Well, it is here.
Okay.
This is the land development.
But we don't have, do we have a plan for what they plan on building as a
No, it's
yeah,
just, it was
yeah.
a lot line on a
Right.
parcel. It doesn't show the size of the
Right.
house or
And that'll all
where the
be-
driveway would be
Right.
or any of that.
So somewhere, don't we have an ordinance that when you do develop property, that any trees removed have to be replaced?
We do have a replacement.
We do have a replacement ordinance.
So when they do build, will they have to get approval to take down trees?
they would have to replace, I don't know if they need approval, but they would need to replace what they take down.
And they don't necessarily need to
And take
replace
one big
right
one
where
and
they
big
are,
small
right?
ones.
It's all about
Correct.
caliper inches and
Yeah.
other places
Yeah.
on the,
Yeah.
on the property.
Can't put a 40, 50, 100-year-old tree back, yeah.
Right.
So you put smaller pieces.
Some of that vegetation would be removed for the driveway
Yeah.
before construction, so you would have some of those trees coming down. To what degree, we don't know until we see the building permit.
But they'd have to replace any trees they take down somewhere.
They'd be smaller trees, obviously, because if they're large, they would have to be smaller trees or shrubs. Usually 10 shrubs equals a tree, that kind of thing.
And the zoning board said that they, or the
Planning.
planning
Planning
agency rather,
agency.
excuse me, is saying that they feel that the sidewalks should be installed.
I believe that's the recommendation.
It's with the walkability plan, I guess.
Oh, what do you guys want to do? Anybody 100% one way or the other?
So procedurally, if you want to, again, approve all of them or deny all of them, you could simply make a motion to approve the resolution and grant all of the waivers or deny all of the waivers. If you want to grant some and not others, and again, the tree issue seems to be B, C, and D, not A and E. The motion would be to approve the waivers for A and E and deny for B, C, and D, if that's the direction you want it to go.
I'm sorry, just to clarify one more question. The reason why we did not require the Powell property to put sidewalks in that direction is because of the same, is it essentially the same reasoning? Because
what? What was the
Nobody was
reason?
walking from that direction to Harriet Weddell Park, from that direction. You know, so these new 6 homes and the Powell property.
But now we have another subdivision, and so
Yeah.
there would have been a continuous sidewalk, so.
But there wouldn't be any sidewalk, just under the turnpike itself, but yeah.
well, I mean, just to, yeah, my recommendation is going to be to deny those B, C, and D in accordance with our planning commission's recommendation.
Is that a motion?
I would make,
Or you still want to discuss? It's up to you.
well, that's going to be what I will move to, if everyone's okay with me.
I think we should support them.
Yeah, I think if we don't start somewhere, we're always going to be in this conversation of, well, it's a sidewalk going nowhere. Well, it's always going to be a sidewalk going nowhere if we didn't require other people around them to put sidewalks in. Like, I just feel like at some point we've got to.
We have an ordinance, you know, and it's,
We have to enact the ordinance. Just-
So I would make a motion to approve the land development, granting waivers A and E, and denying waivers B, C, and D. Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
in favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor.
Next, we're going to get sidewalks on Dr. Pike.
Next, we have an extension request for 502 West Germantown Pike. Ms. Vizio?
Yes, they do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a letter from Jenny Passman on behalf of Plymouth Union KPG3 LLC for 502 West Germantown Pike, requesting an extension on the subdivision and land development application through September 30th, 2023, and I would make a motion that we accept that extension.
There's a motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Yes.
All right, I just have a question about
I'm sorry, name?
Amanda Marshall.
Go ahead.
So we're here to discuss the addition of sidewalks in our neighborhood.
If you can just, and I promise we're going to move quick, but when we get to audience participation at the bottom, since it's separate from these specific issues, we can.
I just want to make sure that
Yep.
we didn't need to chime in on your last comment.
No, we'll get you at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. The next is an extension request for 322 Ridge Pike, Outback Steakhouse. Ms. Bandish?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a letter from John K. Murphy. asking for the MPC action plan deadline be extended until August 31st, 2023 for the Outback Steakhouse application. I make a motion that we grant this extension.
Okay, there's a motion from Ms. Bandish. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Next is an extension request for 845 Germantown Pike, Aristocare. The current plan action deadline date is June 9th, 2003, and the extension request is for September 8th, 2023. And I will make a motion that we approve this extension. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Plans that are conditionally approved and not yet recorded, we have 3 more extension requests. First one is for 527 Plymouth Road. Ms. Vizio.
Mr. Chair, this is from a letter from Deborah Shulsky regarding Exeter 527 Plymouth LP. This applicant is in the process of satisfying all the conditions of approval and is requesting a 1-year extension to August 11th, 2024 to satisfy the conditions and record the plans, and I would move that we accept that extension.
Okay, there's a motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bandish. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Next extension is for Danello, 2290 Butler Pike. Ms. Vizio.
A letter from Paul Barents on behalf of the Denali Companies. They're looking for an extension to July 1st, 2024 to complete their subdivision plan. They're asking to keep the plan open, and I would move that we accept that extension.
Okay, motion from Ms. Vizio. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council, from the audience?
I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Paul Barons. I work for the Denali Companies.
Paul, sorry, what was your last name again?
Barons, B-A-R-E-N-T-S.
He wrote the letter.
Oh, gotcha. Got it. Thank you. Yes.
I see July 1, 2024. If construction isn't completed by then, do we automatically have to request another extension? And I suspect it will be.
Which letter are we talking about here?
The Danella letter.
This is the one that was that you wrote from there. Using their council is, pertains to an old land development and future building on
This is the one we had been discussing?
it. Yes.
And you're indicating that the letter says that the plan, you're staying open until July 1st, 2024. The issue becomes whether or not your project is substantially complete at that point in time. Not complete, not everything has to be done down to the last detail, but if you're substantially complete, you don't need to request an extension.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. And our next extension request is for Royal Farms. Mr. Whitney.
All right, in regards to the application of Royal Farms at 906 Ridge Pike, we have a request for an extension to September 28th, 2023. I'd make a motion that we grant this extension.
Okay, there's a motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Vizio. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. We have 3 escrow releases for action tonight for projects under construction. First one is for Fairfield Road. Mr. Whitney.
All right, in regards to the Camaro project on Fairfield Road, I have a letter from Mr. Ronnie Manai indicating that it is found that sufficient field work has been completed to release the amount of $50,789.50. I make a motion that we release this amount.
Okay, there's a motion from Mr. Whitney. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Bramblett. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Vizio?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Our next escrow release, we have a letter from Lonnie Manai regarding Andrews Estates. At this time, based on field observations of work completed to date, we find that sufficient work has been completed to release the amount of $245,901. By releasing this amount, the total account balance for the project will be reduced to $760,612.20. I would make a motion that we approve this escrow release. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Visia?
In favor.
And the chair votes in favor. And our final escrow release is for Kraft Custom Homes. Ms. Visia?
I have a letter from Mr. Lyman and I related to Kraft Custom Homes, 2622 Butler Pike. It's been found that sufficient work has been completed to release the amount of $103,867.50. I would make a move that we release that amount.
There's a motion from Ms. Visia. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Whitney. Comments or questions from council or from the audience? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bandish?
In favor.
Ms. Bramblett?
In favor.
Mr. Whitney?
In favor.
Ms. Visia?
In favor.
The chair votes in favor. Moving down to zoning, one zoning announcement. Ms. Bandish?
Yes, there's going to be continued hearing for Priant on July 17th, 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Bandish. Moving to Parks and Rec, our upcoming events and from the Parks and Rec Department, Mr. Whitney.
All right. First up, official Plymouth Township T-shirts are now available at the Greater Plymouth Community Center. The Bookmobile returns Mondays at the Greater Plymouth Community Center from 3 to 6 p.m. We will be holding an outdoor movie, Lightyear, on Wednesday, July 12th.
Used to be Tuesdays.
Concert, Barefoot Bobby and the Breakers, on Wednesday, July 19th. Outdoor movie, Puss in Boots, Wednesday, July 26th. National Night Out with the Plymouth Township Police Department will be on Tuesday, August 1st. Our fall program registration begins on Thursday, August 3rd. And the Greater Plymouth Community Center shutdown week will be from August 28th to September 1st. Any additional details can be found in our brochure, our app, our website, on social media, or by calling 610-277-4312.
Thank you, Mr. Whitney. Moving down to miscellaneous and old business, we have citizen board vacancy announcements. Ms. Bramblett?
Thank you. All residents wishing to serve on the following citizen boards are asked to submit their resume or letter stating their interest to the township manager, 700 Belvoir Road, Plymouth Meeting, or by email to kweiss@plymouthtownship.org. The following citizen board positions are open. Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board, 3 positions open. Historical Architectural Review Board, 1 position open. Human Relations Commission, 1 position open.
Thank you, Ms. Bramblett. Anything additional from council? From the audience? Thank you for your patience. Now's the time. And I'm sorry, if you could just tell me your name one more time.
Jessica.
Can you speak up a little bit? It's very hard to hear you.
Come on up, we will bite.
Unfortunately, we have a terrible setup here as our township building's under construction, but we just need to make sure the microphones, pick you up, so.
So
And
why don't
it's
you
all the way
each
up here.
grab a chair and come closer so the microphones pick you up. So
Sorry.
the 3 of you can grab and
We're just trying to make it as awkward as possible.
These green circle lights are the microphone.
Okay,
Close enough?
that's good. It's almost too close. But
We agree. So we're here tonight to hopefully just discuss the 2040 plan and sidewalks. We live in the valley, and we understand the 2040 plan for walkability purposes, but as homeowners in the valley, we are, would just like to discuss the, and I don't know if we would have to submit, because I heard you talking about this for other properties, officially for some sort of waiver of the property, but we're just here to discuss how we feel about the sidewalk requirement as homeowners.
Well, and we're rebuilding our house, so it's been brought to our attention that now because we're rebuilding our house, we've been there for 10 years, that we now have to put a sidewalk in.
And sorry, could we just have your name also? We have
Yeah,
Jessica's.
my name's Amanda Marshall.
Thank you.
So because of this, it's an added expense. On top of that, we have a massive tree in our front yard that would be right in the way of where a sidewalk would need to be, and it wouldn't connect to anything. So I just feel as though it would be more of a safety hazard rather than, improving the safety for pedestrians. It would be going into the grass.
Yeah, outside of that, I know one of the points for the 2040 plan is keeping it consistent, right, aesthetically throughout the neighborhoods. This obviously, at the pace at which the valley is turning, where people are building or renovating, it just would not fit. There are no sidewalks on our street. So outside of safety, we also in the valley have had water issues. So from an impervious standpoint, it would just, in our opinion, create more drainage issues. We don't have a sewage drain on our, or water drain on our street at all. And quite frankly, at the bottom of our driveway, it becomes an ice skating rink in the middle of winter when things melt. Safety, and then, from an ADA standpoint, we just have a bunch of questions about the forethought around, like, what happens when, from a walkability standpoint, when you have this random sidewalk in somebody's neighborhood, where are ramps going, how are people accessing those sidewalks? So
Just to clarify, are you already, have you submitted your plans?
Our house is up.
Yeah. Yeah,
We are just not in it yet.
Yeah, we had permitting done, end of last year. We started in January, so we're nearing completion of construction for us by the end of the summer. So we figured now is the time to just start the discussion.
Mine is not under construction. I'm Tori Stevenson. But I also have a tree that would be right in the way of a sidewalk, and I would highly, there's not a single sidewalk in anywhere. I walk my dog around the neighborhood, everybody walks right down the street in that neighborhood, and there's not a single sidewalk anywhere. It would be ridiculous to have one house with a sidewalk.
So we discussed this pretty extensively probably about a year or so ago when this first came up. And obviously, as you said, our walkability, our comprehensive plan for the future. And the question was that, with the valley in particular, with new houses being built, it didn't have sidewalks before, but the reality that who knows, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, some of those streets might be entirely different. They might all look like the new houses. And I think the reason why we wanted to enforce the sidewalk part of the ordinance is because of that, because at some point the neighborhood's going to change, and it's our opportunity to get sidewalks that will connect every house once all those, we don't know. There may be a street that has 5 new houses and 2 houses that aren't new, and there might be a gap in between. But the feeling is that there's probably going to be a time when all of those houses might be connected with sidewalks, and we have to start somewhere. So that's why we sort of enacted this for the new construction. And even though it might look odd to begin with, but the plan would be that for the future, we might see a much more connected neighborhood with the sidewalks. In terms of the trees, and I don't know the specifics. I do remember there was the one where we required a sidewalk on Sandy Hill Road, or was it? I think it was Sandy Hill, and they were actually able to sort of circumvent the sidewalk around the tree.
Sometimes they do that, but if the sidewalk's anywhere within the drip line of the tree will die.
And it would just literally, this tree is in the front right corner of our yard.
You die.
Some of the, I think, appeal of the valley is the size of the yards. The front yard, the backyard. So you're taking away, first of all, you'd be taking away space from your front yard to put in this sidewalk. It's not going to go into anything. And then I guess I totally understand wanting to make the neighborhood more walkable, and I agree. But it doesn't make sense unless it's all done at the same time, and it's made, a rule for everybody in the valley to have to do it. Because if you do it over time, what's going to happen is now the homeowner that had to install the sidewalks now, us, 10 years from now, when our neighbor gets a sidewalk, ours is probably going to have to be redone because of the roots of the tree or because of the water issues that we have in between the two properties. And who pays for that? You know, is that the homeowner's expense?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't
I
know
don't.
if you necessarily say just because one sidewalk gets built that another would have to be redone. I mean, if it's done properly the first time, hopefully that wouldn't happen. And I guess
Well, I'm just saying with the water issues, the water is going on, would have to go under the sidewalk. So you're gonna have to, I don't know, we have drainage issues in that neighborhood. So I'm just thinking the water runoff, there's no sewer there, the water just sits on top of the concrete, it's gonna get,
sounds like an engineer question.
yeah, I'm not an engineer.
Neither am I. Neither am I.
Well, water's not going to go under, it's going to go over the sidewalk.
Okay.
So in reality, you would have it sloped at a 2% cross slope, or you would have drainage towards the street. And there shouldn't be ponding on the sidewalk.
But then does it have to be regraded at that point?
Yeah, you would have to regrade for the sidewalk to have sufficient slope. And
Sorry,
flat.
that was your point. If our neighbor then puts in a sidewalk and you pitch it a certain way to make it go into the street versus into your neighbor's yard.
All sidewalk is pitched 2% towards the roadway.
Okay.
So that would be consistent throughout. Like Karen said, if it was in the drip line, you're most likely going to destroy the tree roots, and there's nothing you can do about that. But sidewalk is an important facet for the township.
And I completely, I guess the interest is like, because when we talked about this, it was a very difficult conversation because exactly what you said, if everybody was doing them at the same time, it would be a lot easier. It would make sense, right?
Yeah, well,
but that's not, we know that's not happening, right? Not everybody's tearing down a house and rebuilding it at the same time. But if we don't put the sidewalks in now, piece by piece, when each house is redeveloped, we'll never meet that goal that we have of connecting the neighborhoods with sidewalks.
Township just came through and put sidewalks in.
I was going to say, was there because what are the options?
So bad.
There was one time that we had an opportunity to get a grant
Yeah.
to install sidewalks on Valley Road. It was just Valley, it was just one side. And we could have done that. And we actually didn't necessarily, we have a right, what do we have, 8 feet right away? Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
But we could have done it. We actually had a meeting with the neighbors along that road at that time, and they didn't want the sidewalks. I personally, I'll say this publicly, I believe we should have put sidewalks there when we had the chance, when we had the grant, because I think it would have been good, especially with the kids walking back and forth from the middle school. But those neighbors didn't want it, and we honored their wishes, and we didn't do it. To put sidewalk, for the township to put entire sidewalks in, and I don't know if we have right of way on every street to do that, but some. And look, we've looked for opportunities. When we have a list in the township of areas of high priority for sidewalks that currently don't have them, and we're always looking for, when we get these transportation grants, to look for, hey, this is the next one on our list. This is the next one on our list. So we sort of go down that order and try to get those high priority areas first that we would want to do if we had the opportunity to do it. So we have done that. I mean, we've looked for that, and we've done that. We did that along Walton Road.
You did it right here on Germantown Park.
Germantown
but it's pretty
by
much
Walton.
on public land. It's pretty rare you're going to get a grant for private property. You could get it for parks, and this, from Jolly to Walton on Germantown, that was done with a grant. But it was public land, park here.
So I think as homeowners, for me, the issue that I have, obviously aesthetically, I think that everybody would agree, if we're the only new house on the block that it was required to do this, because there have been new construction houses in the valley that weren't required to do this.
And we missed some.
So we start now, and I think it looks silly. For me, I'm in the business of insurance. It's a liability. It's an additional expense over time. Maintenance. It's also an additional liability. Obviously, I know the sidewalk becomes, even though you're requiring it, it becomes our responsibility to maintain, and it's our liability. And we're just inviting people to trip and fall on our property, and whether it's purposeful or not, I just don't, that's where I take issue with it. I think I agree, as a Valley resident, I've lived there for 10 years, and to make it walkable and safe, because there are many other issues in the valley, like speeding and not stopping at stop signs and things that I think we should dedicate more of a focus to rather than sidewalks. I do believe that eventually sidewalks would help with the problem of, pedestrians and being in the street and all that. But again, as an individual homeowner being required to do that where others aren't unless they take on a project, A, it might deter people from staying in the valley and doing construction because of the increased expense and liability. And B, I don't think it serves initially the purpose that you want it to. So I think for us, we just want to see if there's a way to accomplish both, and satisfy everybody. And again, part of this discussion was to see, what have we explored? Is it possible that, we are able to submit some sort of a waiver for our property at this point? We're happy to, petitions or grants or whatever we can do as residents to try to, get the funds to have sidewalks, be required for everybody all at once. I think we would find, and we polled a bunch of residents, and I think everybody's consensus was it would look silly and it's just an additional exposure.
Just like you said, the valley people, we don't really want, and how many trees are going to come out?
It's going to create not only the trees, but
There's
there's a lot of
trees
sewer.
right there on the edge of the roads.
What are those, sewer lines? Drains, yeah, that would have to be.
The sewer lines, yes. So that's the other thing, the sewer lines that are run through people's front yards, a lot of them are right in the vicinity
Yeah,
of.
the little vent pipe that
where
comes up
sidewalks
would be
go.
right there where the sidewalk is at as well.
I guess if you're asking for a waiver, where do you stop though? Then what you're saying is we shouldn't have the ordinance and we shouldn't have the plan. We do have, I don't like it either when sidewalks stop and stop. Jolly Road has that on one side. Sometimes you have to walk on the grass or cross the other side. Hickory Road has that. There are areas in the township where there are sidewalks that were required and older properties didn't have to have them, and some of them are really old. So you want to, I don't know how a waiver to one property owner, that just undoes, you're asking us to undo our ordinance, I guess, is what you're doing.
Selfishly, yes, for us at this time, but we are also asking for everybody to revisit this and see if we can find a way to require it all at once. We're not in objection essentially to the entire plan, but making individual homeowners do it. Again, I think that if there's a sidewalk and I'm walking down the street and there's a sidewalk in front of one person's house, I'm not getting on the sidewalk. I'm going to continue to walk in the street. And that, again, long-term, sure, that's the hope, but you just mentioned another, development that, there are.
It didn't work out like that, yeah.
But I think of what Chris said, that streets can change. I live off of Butler Pike, in between Germantown and Ridge, and there are sporadic sidewalks, and I am grateful when I can drag my dog up onto the sidewalk, because it can be really dangerous walking along there.
On Butler.
Right there at the Friends School. The Friends School is very
It didn't
nice.
work out for that neighborhood either, huh?
No, it's that we need more sidewalks there. So it has to be enforced that it goes in. Right now we have the Friends School will allow people coming from a bus stop to walk through their property, but they don't have to allow that. So it's a safety issue too. So I just regret the fact that this wasn't enacted sooner and had people forced to install the sidewalks, because it's a safety issue. However, it can be done. Over the course of time, all of a sudden you have a nice extension then.
And I understand where you're coming from. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for this, but as homeowners, we have to, try to protect ourselves and manage the risks that we have. And again, I'm going to beat a dead horse, but I think that if there are sporadic sidewalks, we're encouraging people to walk onto somebody else's property. We've been yelled at in our own neighborhood when our dog walks on the edge of somebody's property. There are people who are not going to enjoy that, because again, if our sidewalk ends in somebody else's yard and somebody continues to walk across the yard,
Now you're on their property.
right?
But again, I think
sorry,
it
what
does
was-
not, your plan for.
Right of way, you're not.
Yeah, there's a right-of-way. I mean, they can yell at you to get off the grass, but it's actually a right-of-way. It's a public right-of-way. It's a township right-of-way.
Especially the trees is what really gets me. We're gonna lose a lot of trees.
Well, yeah, the trees, the cost, of taking down the trees,
Yeah, taking down the
putting
trees
in
and
the
putting in the
sidewalk,
sidewalk is
moving the
not a
sewer
cheap
line.
project.
Yeah, so that was my other question that I was gonna ask. Is the township going to pay? Is it a wash for me? Do I have to put in the sidewalk for, $2,500, $3,000, and you guys are gonna pay for the tree to be taken down that's gonna cost the same amount? You're just doubling my cost.
We don't take down trees.
Correct. That's my point, right? At the end of the day, you're making me do something, but now I didn't put that tree there. It's there, I want to keep the tree. You're telling me I gotta put it in the sidewalk, and now I'm out $6,000.
I guess it's a cost of development, though. I mean, if the property's not developed, nothing has to be
My
done.
property was developed. I lived there for 10 years, and we decided to do a renovation, and we are doing mostly a rebuild at this point. So I've owned my property for 10 years. I've paid my taxes, I've lived there, and I've walked that neighborhood a million times. So,
Well, we're not increasing square footage. It's literally on the exact same slab that was there before. So this is not something that we, decided to call a builder and we bought the property last year and he came in and did it. We've been there. We know all our neighbors. We've lived there for 10 years. And again, started as a renovation, decided mid-renovation, hey, this doesn't really make sense. Let's take down the last four exterior walls and just rebuild on the same slab to make everything new. And now we have to, because it's considered new construction, now we have to incur an additional $6,000 expense, which could potentially be more because we may need to regrade our property, which at this point is unfair.
the ironic part is we have significant water drainage issues on our property. Our property is right in the middle. It gets pitched from every direction, from the yard next to us, behind us. So we actually benefited from the fact that we had to make the decision to build off the slab because we brought the house up in 8 to 12 inches, which is helping hopefully with, I used to get water in the house, whenever we have a storm in the back of the house. So going back to the impervious point, adding a random sidewalks with no drainage on the street, as it is just going to continue to add to those issues.
Yeah, you're not going to have, we need as much grass to soak
And
up
trees,
that water.
the roots are what help with drainage.
A lot of really good points, and I don't. There's nothing we can't undo an ordinance right now tonight. Based on your comments. I know you're under a time crunch because you're in the process. Again, we've already done this. We've already decided on this. We've already made our decision on it. But we can certainly, I think, take a look at it and promise to get back to you very soon. But I don't know that we're going to change our mind. But I think we can consider it. We can sit on it a little bit. No one's come to us since we've done this, which was I don't even know how long ago. Like nobody's come to us and asked us about it since we passed it.
There
So.
hasn't been a single sidewalk.
Right. So I'm just saying like this is the first hearing.
I'm
There's
just-
somebody else that
I
wants to
think-
talk behind you, so I don't want them to wait till.
I don't want to interrupt, because we're late.
Well, if you could come up and give us your name
Oh, sure, absolutely.
and just state that you are or not a township resident, but you are a township resident because you're talking about
My name is Rick Laird, and we are a township resident. We're also building. And I think that it'll probably be the second. I think we're the only two. But there's other,
Yeah, we're the other one.
But there's other houses that were built not too long ago. And I actually don't mind sidewalks, but I think it's going to look silly with no other sidewalks done in the neighborhood. And I think that if there's a way you can think about, I love what they said, making it mandatory. Is it going to be on both sides of the street, or is it, so they're on the opposite side, so it'll, I
It'll
don't
essentially
understand.
just be each property that gets redeveloped would have a sidewalk.
So what about the ones that were already developed that weren't?
Yeah,
that
they got in
this
before
ordinance
they.
was missed?
But the ordinance
Right,
has been in
so-
play for how many years? It's been there,
They
right?
were. I guess they were waived, right?
Well, they weren't really waived. It was in the ordinance in two places, and we knew it was in one place, but those would be waived, but the others, the existing building lots, didn't go through land development, so therefore, we didn't think they were required. But property you heard about earlier is going through land development, so they're required under the subdivision and land development ordinance. The sidewalks are also in the code because the code department, we realized that it was also in there, that when you construct a home, you have to add a sidewalk.
Well, why is it that we didn't need, so initially, like I said, our project started as a addition, right? We were gonna use the 4 exterior walls of the existing house and build on top of it. Well, when they brought everything down, there was too many inconsistencies, and it didn't make sense for us to spend the amount of money we were spending and use those walls. So we took down those walls, but built on the exact same slab. And then all of a sudden, when we took down those 4 walls, now it's considered new construction, even though we didn't replace the foundation. But we didn't need the permit for or we didn't need to put in a sidewalk prior to taking down those exterior walls. So what changed?
I'm assuming that's just
That's
what
a
classifies as new development versus not new development. It's just,
So if we would have
that's the cutoff.
kept one
Yeah.
wall, it would have been.
I get.
Well,
So there's neighbors at the end of, near you guys at the end, the last house on your
Mhm.
side, and then the last house on our side. We're both on Erland, just the different blocks. New house at the end, not new, it's been there a while. It's not gonna get knocked down. And the one at this end, probably been there, I don't know, 15 years, whatever. It's not gonna get knocked down, it's a beautiful home. So maybe houses here and there will get knocked down, maybe. Or there's people that have been in the valley 40 years and they're not going anywhere. So there'll be a sidewalk, then no sidewalk for 3 houses, then a sidewalk.
it'll always be
Aesthetically.
incontiguous. Like
It's never gonna be.
But the
That's a great
the
point.
code was there. When they did that, it was just an accidental miss. That's what I'm understanding. So, I mean, I don't know.
So why do you penalize?
Yeah, they were lucky, I guess. I don't.
Yeah, but you could look at it as getting penalized, or you could look at it as the other ones just got lucky.
Got
You know,
lucky, yeah.
and I know it's not a good. I know it's not a good answer. It's not really an acceptable answer from our part, but that's what
Yeah.
happened. That's what
I
happened.
mean, there's literally gonna be 2 sidewalks on our street.
And seriously, if there were
For now.
sidewalks all the way down, I wouldn't, on one side, I think one side.
Well, I think it would be great to have sidewalks.
Oh, I
if
love
the
sidewalks.
township put them in the entire neighborhood, because then it would increase the walkability. It would increase the value. I think it would drive more people to want to come and live there. It would probably fix the issue of some of the houses on our street that look condemned. Maybe it would encourage them to fix up their property. I mean, who knows? It could do a lot, but I just think that we're focused on the wrong thing. I think that we need to, like Jess said, we need to worry about speeding in our neighborhood, put in speed bumps. We need to worry about, people taking better care of their property and maintaining their grass and not having chickens in the backyard. That's I think,
Sheds falling down.
Well, I think we don't operate in a way which we can do one or the other. I think we try to do it all. And yes, there are a lot of code issues, and there's a lot of issues in the Valley and other parts that we try to stay on top of as much as we can. Like, we are focused on those things, and we do know all the concerns about speeding, and trust me, I read Facebook too, so I know it's big. But we're not picking one or the other. Like, I do think we want both. And again, I guess what I'm going to say is with the sidewalk thing, I just don't know if we're going to come to an agreement tonight on this, but I understand. Like, I get it. But I also understand.
Our ask, and I think as the only 2 homeowners that have been in the valley that are building on their existing property where we have been, right? We didn't, to Amanda's point, we didn't just buy and knock down a house and redevelop.
As well.
Yeah. So I think our ask would be, let's continue the conversation, but if in recent years, other houses have gotten away with not doing it because that was a miss or whatever, they got lucky, we're actually bringing it to your attention and asking for exceptions and saying we'll continue to be a part of the conversation on how do we accomplish this. We're residents, we're not going anywhere. We're obviously building, new beautiful houses. We want to improve the property values in the valley. We want to stay there. So we want to continue to do this, and we're committed to that, but we think there's got to be a better way to do it.
Also, we were supposed to build 3 years ago, COVID hit, and it kind of shut us down. So we probably would have snuck in past the
That's
code, they
us
wouldn't have
too.
found it.
We've seen the
Same
exact
thing with
scenario.
you.
Construction
So I
is
guess
too
it could go into the
expensive.
bad luck category, but,
You just put us all in that bucket.
And we're staying as well, like, I know there's a lot of developers in the neighborhood, we built the house to live in.
Yeah.
We're biting at the chance to get back in there, hopefully, soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, like I'm over it, but yeah, so we're planning to stay, and the houses that we're building, they're beautiful. That itself beautifies the neighborhood.
is there some talk amongst you of spreading it out, giving, if God forbid it doesn't, just spreading it out, or giving us a year? to get
Well, we
it?
haven't, I mean, no, we haven't talked about it because we just are hearing from you guys tonight for the first time. So if you can just let us process everything, and then we'll sort of stay in communication, and I can be your point of contact as well. And I'll talk to our codes. We'll talk amongst ourselves and see what we can figure out.
No, we
But we thank you for
appreciate
bringing it up.
having a
We
voice.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Pastor, you have some,
Yeah, I have two questions.
could you just tell us your name, Pastor?
Yep, Reverend Alex Evangelista, evangelist with an A at the end. Hopefully that's easy to spell out. I just have two questions. The first is the code enforcement zoning meeting open to the public? I am not seeing that on the agenda, so I just wanted to make sure.
The zoning meetings.
There's a
So there are
zoning-
no code enforcement meetings, but the zoning hearing board is a public meeting, yes.
Perfect. So that is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the location for that? I'm not seeing that on their
It's-
agenda. That's
So
found.
there is no zoning meeting this month, correct?
No, there is.
No, there is, the
pre-
continued.
The
The
continued
pre-
hearing, and I believe it's in this room.
Yeah, June 17th.
July
June
17th.
July 17th.
It's next Monday. I
Right.
believe it's in this room, room B.
All right.
They have the schedule at the front desk. It's also on the agenda.
The agenda online doesn't have it.
Doesn't have it? Okay.
So that's why I asked. The second was
It's right in
more
this room.
a question as well. If this is already available, or if it could be available, all these amendments and motions, like the 6-0106, is that available anywhere online? Like, when I see this, like, I wish I could hyperlink and just click on it, open up a new PDF, but when I'm searching the website, I'm not finding an easily accessible way of finding that.
You know, you bring up a very good point, and I think that being able to link to fuller explanations would be a good thing, and hopefully that's something that I think we should work on, you know, so that we can communicate better with the community, and so that people can also find out whether they want to attend the meeting, because it brings up questions.
Yeah, because when I see the documents page on your website, like even if there was a council page with the date, the month, and here's all the motions, amendments, resolutions you're going to look at, I know it would at least help me be more prepared, more informed, and to your point, I can maybe stay home.
You can decide if you want to come.
It's too boring, it doesn't interest you.
But I appreciate the time you all are doing. I would love to hopefully see that in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the idea.
Thank you.
Any additional comments, questions? No? Okay, meeting's adjourned.